Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Planetarium show. My name is Jessica. I am the director of the Planetarium, and with me tonight, becoming a very familiar face in our streams, I'll let her say hi and introduce herself for anyone who might be new here.
Hi everyone, my name is Allie. I'm a biochemistry student at UMD and I'm also a planetarium staff member.
Awesome. So, sorry, I forgot to pull my the stream up on my phone, since I can't always see comments easily. Anyway, I'm multitasking and not doing a good job of it. And my cat is yelling at me. Thank you, Nova. Okay, all right. This is a fabulous stream to start off with. So for our show tonight, we are doing our monthly constellation show, which is usually on the second Wednesday of the month. But since last week was all things wonderful James Webb, we of course pushed the show back a week so that we could celebrate that before. So with this, we're going to be taking a look at kind of the stars and constellations that you could see up this month and tell you some of the stories behind them. Now, if you have any questions throughout the show, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Allie's going to keep an eye on that for me and will let me know if questions come up. And if we don't get to them right away, don't worry. We will always make sure that we get to all questions at the end of the show. Nova, calm down. She's very excited for the stream, apparently. All right, so I'm going to get everything switched over. If you are new for our constellation shows, we use this really awesome program called Stellarium to do these. It's actually a free program, so if you're interested, you can check it out. I have a link down in the video description so that you can take a look at it yourself. You basically put in your date, time, and location, and it shows you what the sky looks like. So I have it set for right now for Duluth, since that is where we are located. And of course, we are in the summer, which means sun is still up this time of day. There it is slowly starting to set in the west. So we're going to have to fast forward time a little bit here just to get the sun to set. Nova, I'm not letting you up here right now. And we'll just let it keep going. So we got nice sets. There we go. So we're looking at about 10:30 tonight. This is what our sky is looking like. We already are starting to see some of our evening planets. These have been slowly making their way from the pre-dawn to the midnight, now to the evening sky. So we've got Saturn peeking up there in the southeast. But let's turn our attention over to the north, and we'll start looking at some of the constellations. So I always start these shows finding a few constellations in the north that are up all year round. And these are really good ones to start out with if you're unfamiliar with the night sky, because they're always there. That means any night you go out, there's something familiar in the sky. But as we're also going to see in a little bit, these constellations in the north can also help you find other constellations. So once you find one, you then have a launching off point to find others as well.
Hey Jessica, I have a question really quick.
Yes.
Can Stellarium do the Dendera zodiac? I might have mispronounced that. Which also leads into the question of, do you know and can you tell us about them?
I do not. I do not know about that. That is a new thing for me. I will have to look it up after the show, though. I will look it up and see if there's anything that I could talk about it later. Or yeah, we'll see. I don't know, Allie, do you know that one?
I don't, but I could do a little bit of super quick research and see what I can find.
All right, you want to do that, and I'll keep going with the show, and maybe we'll circle back to it at the end? All right. So here in the north, the most familiar set of stars that most people recognize is, of course, these 7 stars here, which is our Big Dipper. Right? We have the handle and the cup there. Now, the Big Dipper is actually technically not a constellation. It is an asterism. So that means it's a smaller, more recognizable grouping of stars within a larger constellation. In this case, the Big Dipper is actually the 7 brightest stars in the Greek constellation of Ursa Major, or the Big Bear. So, to see the bear, the handle of the Dipper is actually the bear's tail, and then we have the back, ear, nose, chest, front legs, belly, and back legs. And I'll turn the lines on so that we can see that again. Again, tail, back, head, front legs, and back legs. A slightly unusual bear, but a bear nonetheless. Now, as I said, once you find some constellations, then they can help you find others. And the Big Dipper stars within Ursa Major are actually a fantastic navigation tool for the night sky. So, we are going to go back to the Big Dipper and find these front 2 stars in the cup of the Big Dipper. Those are what we call the pointer stars, because they can point us to actually several different constellations. What we're first going to see, though, is they're going to point us to this bright star, which is Polaris, also known as the North Star. Polaris is the end of the handle of the Little Dipper, so handle and cup. And it is also Ursa Minor, or Little Bear. And so again, the handle is the tail, and now the cup is actually the entire body of the Little Bear. So back legs, body, front legs, head somewhere here-ish. And so there is our Little Bear. Now, the pointer stars can also help us find a few other constellations. If we go back to those pointer stars, we follow them to Polaris, but then keep going, we end up at this W in the sky. This is another one that's a really easy target, a really easy kind of good first constellation to learn, because it's really bright and really obvious. This W here is the Greek constellation of Cassiopeia, the Queen. And this one takes a little bit of imagination. We kind of picture her as if she's sitting in her throne, and we're getting a nice profile view. So we have her head here, and so she's kind of looking this way. Her back, upper legs, lower legs, and big long clown feet. So that is our Queen Cassiopeia. Now, if you noticed, I mentioned that all 3 of these constellations are Greek constellations. And that's typically what most people know. Most people, if they know any constellations, know Greek constellations. But the Greeks weren't the only ones to do this. In fact, cultures all over the world saw pictures in the stars and used those pictures to tell stories. The Greek constellations are the most well-known, partly because the Greeks wrote everything down, and their works were preserved and shared for thousands of years. So they became pretty widespread. Also, in the 1920s, I believe it was, the International Astronomical Union decided to make an official map of the sky for astronomers to use to have some commonality between astronomers all over the world, and most of the constellations that were picked, especially for the northern hemisphere, were all Greek constellations. Now, I put official in quotes because there is no official constellations. And I really like being able to kind of share that there is a lot more to the sky than what you may realize. Looking kind of a little bit closer to where we are here in Minnesota, up in the sky where the Greeks saw our 2 bears, the Ojibwe, who are indigenous to Minnesota, also see a couple of animals. They see a fisher out of a lot of the same stars as the big bear, just the fisher's legs are a little bit shorter. And here they see a loon, a bird named Monk. And so this is kind of the back of the bird, and then the head and the beak here. Now I am I'm not going to share more of those. I also can't share the stories of those with you. I want to make sure that I'm respecting traditions here. But also looking at some other cultures around the world. One of my favorites, especially for our Greek queen Cassiopeia, over in Persia, they see that as the two humps on the back of a camel. So the camel would be upside down, but we have the two humps of a camel. And so there's just lots of different things that you can see. And yes, for a lot of these cultural constellations, you do see a lot of the same stars being used. But that's not too surprising since constellations tend to use the brightest stars in the sky. So of course there's going to be overlap in what stars are used. All right, I think we can move on from there. If you're interested, maybe in the future I can do a full, like, just cultural skies show for you guys. I know it's something that we do actually in person at the planetarium, but I haven't really done much on the live stream with it. So if you're interested in that, let me know, and maybe that's something we can plan for the future. All right, well, with this, I'm going to kind of turn us around, and we're going to first look over in the south. Now, coming out of the south, you can see, and arching across the sky is this beautiful, fuzzy, hazy arch, which is, of course, our Milky Way Galaxy. Our galaxy is shaped like a disk, like a frisbee. Is filled with about 200 billion stars, and we are situated in that galaxy about halfway between the center and the edge. Since most of the stars are located in this disk, and we're kind of looking into the disk, that's why we see the galaxy as a band in the sky. And of course, we don't really see a lot of individual stars in it because they're too far away for us to see as individual points of light. All of that light just kind of blurs together. Now, I'm mentioning this one because, I mean, it's there, you can see it on the screen, but also the summer Milky Way is absolutely stunning. It is the best time to go see it because in the summer, looking towards the south at the Milky Way, we are actually looking towards the center of our galaxy. That's where most of the stars and gas and dust are located. And so you're going to get a Milky Way that's a lot bigger and brighter and spectacular. So if you're able to get out away from city lights, even for just a few hours one night to try and get a look at the summer Milky Way, I highly encourage it because it is just, it's amazing. Now, straddling either side of the Milky Way in the summer, in the south, are a couple of constellations. We'll start over on the right. I usually find it by first looking for this kind of T shape that's in the sky. So this is the kind of head and body of Scorpius, the Scorpion. So this would be kind of his head area. He's got his claws coming out this way, and then his body stretches down, and then he has a tail that curls underneath the horizon. At least for us here in Minnesota, we don't see his full tail. This super bright red star in the middle of his body is Antares. And let's turn on, there we go, our Scorpion. You can see that tail kind of dipping down there. And let me turn off the ground, which is a benefit to a digital system. I can just make the ground disappear. And you can see that full curve of the tail, which is actually a really fun one, especially coming back to some of these cultures. If anyone has kids or is just a big Disney fan like me, you may have seen the movie Moana. So in Moana, she uses a constellation of Maui's hook in the night sky to help her navigate. That's a real constellation. That's what the Polynesians saw instead of the tail of Scorpion. The tail of a scorpion, this is Maui's hook. And it was actually a constellation that they used to help navigate. So just a little bit of real astronomy there in a super awesome Disney movie, which you should go see if you haven't seen it. All right, so there is our Scorpion. And now to the left of the Milky Way is what most people refer to as the teapot. And it's this set of stars here. So we have kind of the body of the teapot. the handle, the cup, or not the cup, the top, and then here's the spout. And the Milky Way is kind of like the steam coming out of the spout. So this is supposed to be Sagittarius, who is a centaur, so half man, half horse. I have not fully understood how you get a centaur out of the teapot, but that is part of the fun of the night sky. Sometimes you really got to stretch that imagination to be able to see what they're, quote unquote, supposed to be. All right, now making our way over to the eastern sky, zoom out a little bit here, we have 3 very bright stars rising up in the east, and this is what's known as the summer triangle, which makes sense because it's a group of 3 stars which make a triangle that's up in the summer. So the 3 stars are Vega, Altair, and Deneb here. And they each are in their own associated constellation. So Vega is in Lyra the Harp, and these are all Greek constellations. This is another one where I'll turn the lines on. I see it very differently than this lines. I see this as kind of like the harp frame, and then the strings would go this way. You can see that this program has a slightly different interpretation of the harp, but there you go. We have Lyra the Harp up in the sky. Altair here is in the Greek constellation of Aquila the Eagle. We have kind of this teardrop shape out of the stars, which is the eagle's body, and then some wings that come out, and then the talons. And so that is, again, slightly different interpretation of how I see it, but you're going to get that. So there is Aquila the Eagle. So Lyra the Harp and Aquila the Eagle are in a story together, a Greek story. And this starts with a man named Orpheus. Now, if you're a fan, especially of, I want to say they talk about it in Hades Town. Yeah, they have to. Then you may know the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, which is his wife. She all of a sudden passes away, and he is devastated by this, so he goes down to the underworld to try and bring her back. And of course, the underworld is guarded by the 3-headed dog, Cerberus, and he is able to put the dog to sleep by playing his harp, because he's this fantastic harp player. Gets out into the underworld, and gets Hades to agree to let her go, but there's a condition. As they're climbing their way back out, he cannot turn around and look at her until they're out of the underworld. So of course they're making their way out, and they're like right at the top, and he hears her exclaim and can't stop himself, and he turns and he looks and sees her then get dragged back down, because he looked before they were out, and they were like right there. It's a really sad story, but there's more to it. So after all of this, Orpheus is of course devastated, grieving the loss of his wife and being so close to getting her back. But all of the ladies in the village that he lives in are kind of excited that Orpheus is now back on the market. So they decide to approach him or basically tell him he has to marry one of them. And he doesn't want to, which makes sense. I mean, he's still mourning the death of his wife. So he turns them all down. And this makes them incredibly angry. So they kill him, chop his body up into little bits, and throw them and his harp into the river. Now, when Zeus heard about this, he was devastated, because Orpheus was, as I said, a fabulous harp player. Even the gods and goddesses would invite him to come play for them. So he was devastated to hear that this happened. So he sent his faithful bird, Aquila the Eagle, down to fetch the harp out of the river, and he placed the harp up in the night sky to honor Orpheus. And Aquila also ended up in the sky because he did lots of things for Zeus. He's in quite a few different stories, and so he ended up earning his place there. All right, on to our last star in the summer triangle, which is...
Hey, Jessica, we have a couple comments before you move on.
Okay.
The first one is, what is the website to view the, what is the website that you're using?
Yeah, so this is the program Stellarium, which is a free to download program, and you can find the link to it in the video description.
And then the next two are kind of just comments. The first one is about Scorpio. Someone just saw Scorpio a little bit different than yours and appreciated your interpretation. And then the next one is also another constellation interpretation. So the centaur can also be viewed as an archer. So the top of the teapot added to the spout is a bow with an arrow loaded and pointing at the heart of the scorpion. So you remove the line forming the lower right edge of the spout to get it.
Okay, I can see that.
So just another cool interpretation.
I like that one, and I know, like, I knew that he was supposed to be an archer, and I knew that in a lot of interpretations he actually was shooting at something, but I could never remember which direction he was shooting. I couldn't remember if he was supposed to be shooting the scorpion or something else. But that's good to know. I like that.
That's a good interpretation. I like that too.
Yeah. And I mean, this is very common. You're going to see different interpretations and drawings of the constellations depending on who you talk to or what book you read. And that's because a lot of these are kind of fuzzy in their definitions. And so, I mean, we sometimes have to make our own interpretations. And as you'll see a lot, we tend to make ones that make sense for us, for the ones presenting. And so you get a lot of that kind of in our planetarium because that gets passed down and shared. Like some of the views that I see, I picked up from people who worked there before me, and I know I've been passing them on to like Allie and our other students who are working. But yeah, it's always fun to hear new interpretations. I like that. All right, one last side of our summer triangle here, the star Deneb, which is part of Cygnus the Swan. So we have kind of the swan tail feathers, and then wings, and long swan neck. So there we go. Tail feathers, wings, and long swan neck. Cygnus is one that's pretty much the same for everyone. Yeah, so there we go. That is our summer triangle up. Let's see. If you have a telescope and want to go out with it this summer, turning it back here to the South Milky Way, because that is looking right into the heart of our galaxy, you have lots of gas clouds and star clusters, and my throat just made a really weird noise, I'm sorry, to kind of point your telescope out. There's so much in this area to try and look at. You could just point your telescope there and just probably find lots of great things, even if you weren't aiming for any particular object. Another really fun one for the summer is actually the star at the tip of the beak of Cygnus. This star is called Alberio, which to our eyes looks like a single star. But if you look at it through a telescope, let's get in here, you can actually see that it is, oops, let me pause time so they stop moving. It is actually two stars. There is some debate over whether they are a true binary star system, meaning two stars that are orbiting around each other, or if they are just a visual binary, which means they're two stars that just happen to look close together, just from our vantage point, but they may not actually be close together. But either way, it's a really cool thing to see, and you'll also notice it's not very well pronounced in this program, but you will see a very different colors of the two stars. One is a much kind of wider blue, while the other one is much more of a yellow-orange. And that's just stars come in different colors depending on their temperature. Hotter stars are bluer, cooler stars are redder. And you're seeing that here with these two different types of stars. You really get to see that color difference in them. So that's another fun one to point your telescope at in the summer. All right, well, I think that is a pretty good tour of our July sky. Over here in the west and southwest, we're still seeing the last remnants of a few spring constellations. If you're interested in kind of learning more about what spring constellations we had, you can always go back and watch one of our previous videos. But yeah, I think we'll call it there, and we'll call that the July sky. So let me zoom back up here. And let's see, did we have any other questions?
I did not see any more questions.
All right. Well, let's take one more kind of call for any questions people might have. Go ahead and leave them down in the comments. While we wait for that, I can tell you what the Planetarium is going to be up to this week. So for our in-person shows at the Planetarium, Friday is Adventure to the Edge of the Universe, which is always a super fun show, and really does change each time I do it because there's a lot to the universe to try and cover in about 30 minutes, so I'm usually having to pick and choose exactly what we go visit, so it's always a fun one. And then our Saturday shows for July have been Two Small Pieces of Glass at 2 p.m. and Big Astronomy at 7 p.m. And we've got, I think, 2 more weeks of these before we change up in August to a new set of Saturday shows. And then, of course, last but not least, if you are interested, we have our annual Dark Sky Caravan event coming up in the second week of August, August 8th through 13th. We will be doing a show here on Facebook Live, but we'll also be hosting lots of star parties all along the North Shore here in Minnesota. So if you want to see some of these things we talked about in a telescope, you can come on out to one of these star parties. If the weather isn't ideal for telescope viewing, don't worry, we're still going to have a lot of fun activities and events going on. So you can come hang out with us in August during the Dark Sky Caravan. And you can find more information about that on our website. Yeah. All right, well. Let's see. I cannot bring up comments, so I'm completely relying on you, Allie.
We have one kind of comment / statement about the binary stars. So they commented if they are a true binary star, they should be about the same age, and we would infer that the brighter star is leaving the main sequence to become a redder giant. Would you say that that is about on par?
So I mean, your logic, yes, is absolutely sound. And I think part of the issue, I don't actually know the ages of the stars. I know for a long time they have been assumed to be a true binary, and I'm pretty sure that sort of analysis was done. I just know in recent years there has been more data on the motions of the stars, which seem to indicate that they're not actually orbiting around each other, that they're actually moving in opposite directions away from each other. So the view is kind of switching, that they might just be visual binary, which is kind of sad because it's always been one of those things, one of those great summer telescope objects. Check out the binary star system with the 2 very distinct colors. But even if they are just still a visual binary, I mean, it's still a really cool thing to look at. So I will be interested to see once more information comes out of what's going on there. Yeah. Anything else? All right.
I think that was everything.
Well, then I think we will wrap it up there. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. Again, we are continuing to do our Facebook streams every Wednesday for the foreseeable future. We are also open doing our in-person shows at the Planetarium on Fridays and Saturdays. So if you're in the Duluth area, you can always come check us out. Yeah, thanks again. Hope you enjoyed this look at the July sky. If you want to see anything else, we have all of our past streams up on both the Facebook page and our YouTube channel. So you can go check out any other shows or just come hang out with us again in the future. All right, so have a wonderful rest of your evening. It's Wednesday. We're running a summer camp at the planetarium right now, and we are tired. Yes, it's Wednesday. Have a wonderful rest of your evening and rest of your week, and we will hopefully see you again next time. So, bye everyone.